your humble under type thing is like realizing that you are not you are not able to win the fight, yet you try to win the fight. And with that mentality, how many fights do you win? Life's on the line, everything. Like, that's crazy. That's a crazy mentality to have. But that's after you, I don't want to say I've seen God, but your life is on the line. You know it. You absolutely know it.
Yeah.
For me, I was in a complete state. This is just a personal anecdote and stuff like that. But I thought I had died. I thought never tripped on DMT before, but like very like that headspace of like it looks like a face on multiple sides. It's like everything gets turned into like four-faced figure sort
Hmm.
of thing. It kind of felt like I was seeing that like a little out of the corner of my eyes like multiple times, and it was
We,
really
we were just doing
unsolicited.
that the other day. I didn't see the face, but I think I get I think I get what you mean.
Yeah, it turns into that like kind of like I don't know. I don't even know what shape that technically is. It's kind of like one of those magnetism waves. Yeah, it felt weird. I felt I thought I died. I thought of when did I die? I was wondering what year I died. I was like, damn, how long have
I
I been in
think
this?
I've kind of had the experience where like body is replaced by this kind of faced column. It's like the self as a personality projection from the body sense itself. Um, which if you don't have a location, it can be in front of you, it can be a tunnel, it can
Interesting.
be above you, beneath you. It's kind of non-local, and so it can tend to move if you try to say that it's in some position. But I think that for me, it's kind of just where I am,
Yeah,
and I can
that's.
see it
I don't
from
think
the
I
other.
have I never had visuals or anything like that in terms of psychic e or anything like that. I don't want to be a guy that ever claims visuals. I do claim that to be spooky stuff, by the way. God knows. I'm
Well,
putting this on record.
this is pretty specific to the sitting,
Oh
eyes
yeah,
closed, like
yeah,
pseudo sleepy
exactly. Yep,
practice.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Well, if
Which it's
I'm
like, well,
seeing
how do you bring
anything,
that now? How do
yeah,
I go out and do that as my story? I don't know. That's
yeah,
a
that and
work
that's
in
what.
progress.
I don't know what I do with it. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know what to do. I don't have a tool. I don't have a use.
For sure. That
You
and I
know.
think that's like most most people and me too. It's like I have higher priorities than accessing states of consciousness just as
Yeah,
a life form, as a representation of potentially 12 stages. It's like, well, these ones really need my attention really badly. Up here, this is some weird shit that people are capable of. But I think that, a lot of the kinds of stuff that you talk about do come from that sort of accident which the meditation practice can make you prone to. And so,
yeah,
me as a person
absolutely.
who didn't have it naturally and didn't really have it in my life externally in my environment, I was kind of only able to find it that way,
Hmm.
like, earlier in my life. But, I've known several people that are more like you, where it's kind of, like you say, you're in alignment. It just kind of
Hmm.
is who you are. And
Yeah.
by being honest and real, you manifest it.
Yeah,
But
isn't that
me, if I
crazy?
go on a linear course from my upbringing, I won't
Oh
go
yeah.
there. That's not where I would
I
go.
agree. I agree. And so, and that's it becomes a story of how well do you know your parents? How well do you know your upbringing? I mean, not you
Oh
potentially.
yeah, that's cool.
But that's what it becomes. It becomes like I know my parents. I know where I know my influences. I know them probably just as I don't know their upbringing. I don't know anything about that. I just know what they phenotypically show. You know what I mean? And so I know the dominant genes. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you about is like, I feel like when you communicate, there's a lot of misunderstanding of like what you're saying, what you're trying to say,
Mm.
and some people get it, and but a lot of people don't. Like, what's your relationship to being misunderstood, and like, are you completely nonchalant and don't care about that, or are you trying to be understood?
I that's I understand why they answer it
Because
parable so
even
often.
like me, like I feel like I understand you better than
Yeah.
most, but at times it's clear that I don't fully grasp, and it can even seem like frustrating to you.
No, well, that's what, half of it. Sometimes I'm dubious, like dubious in terms of like risky a little bit with it, in terms of the references or jokes that I make. But I do that in order for them to connect to the next point that I go to, or sometimes I make it like a really good one not a really good one, but a joke that has a really good payoff later and stuff like that. And I really do that.
Because
I
I
hate how silly
definitely
it is.
see people's own kind of stage reflected in the way that they react to you. I would definitely say
I
that
know, me
happens.
too, me too, me too, me too, me too. Okay, yeah. Okay, yes, I should treat you as such and talk to you as such. Yes, I agree. It is that as well in tandem.
Yeah, and you
It
reflect too. That's true too. You also kind of will wear that
I
mask. Yeah.
instigate the bitch out of people, dude. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it sometimes. But no, I'm cautious with it, right? Like, I mean, you see me hit, like, I could name drop, Abraxas wouldn't mind. I mean, what a name is that? Like, I mean, gosh. Like, when I saw the Abraxas himself enter the fucking chat, I called that immediately, and I could not believe what a great figure he was. I mean, gosh. I mean, is. I mean, yeah, it's
And
so
you're
fun.
a
What?
natural kind of universal donor, like you were saying earlier about how you've gotten like kind of better and better at not like requiring that people are
Yeah.
kind of at a level. You just kind of like, okay, well, here's where you're at, let's rock. That's a
Yeah.
really enviable, admirable trait, I think.
My headcanon was a realization that the worst that you can imagine is, if the best you can imagine is God, and like you're always belittling God sort of thing, the worst you can imagine is the devil. The worst that you can imagine is the devil. Like that, the worst of everyone collectively is that. That is the awareness as well. Can you believe that? Can you believe that that's the awareness as well? What a crazy thing! What a crazy
The
thing! And it's like
opposer, the other,
you
the
have access
Satan.
to one of them. You don't have access to all of God, but
Yeah.
you can think about anything bad you want. Like, I know that. I'm well aware of that. It is just like a increasing the baseline of the devil up to whatever point I want.
Increasing the baseline of the devil. Yeah.
To whatever line I want. So it's like, oh, okay, I see where you're at. Let me put the level right here. You know what I mean? Like, we can't go past this line. You know what I mean? That's
So,
about where I'm.
does it ever happen for you that you are like either maybe like interacting with something where you're like, wow, this is beyond my power level, or this is at my power level, like blah, like here now we're perfectly like in alignment here.
Dude, it's insane. I
I
don't
mean,
know
that
what's
must be really
ironic.
sought after. That must be something you really.
When, like I said, dude, the standard for those mind blowers get lower and lower every day. I mean, like, you
The
could just like
standard
pass
going
by.
down, yeah.
Yeah, you could just pass by someone and they just say some shit to you, and you're like, "Oh my God, that was God. That
That's
was God that just
beautiful.
said that to me." Like, because Adam, you don't understand the sad part, right? Like, who am I talking to right now? Like, are you a part of my head? Like, in a very legitimate sense. I'm not necessarily saying the reverse is true exactly, but I'm not saying that either.
Yeah, for real.
For me, like, how real are you to me? To
So
Evan,
as
to
you
my body.
lower that
Uh,
standard, there's a
mm,
sort of isolation that's kind of
uh,
implied by that too.
how often does God have to show up in your story for you to not take the story seriously? I'm working that God can show up pretty often in my life, and I still take the story seriously. If you got in creative mode in Minecraft, would you actually play Minecraft? How often do you get to go into creative mode where you still take Minecraft seriously?
So the answer is kind of like in general, there's always some degree of pandering, but you don't see it that way because your
You
standard has
can't
gone
see it
down
that
and
way.
you see the imminent.
Before you reach what I'm going to call, okay, me a few weeks ago, Adam, I'm going to call that unironic. I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to say, up until me a few weeks ago was as far as I went unironically. And I'm not adding any stipulation on, like, oh, what Evan said before when he was unironic is somehow parallel to what he says after, or any bullshit like that. Not gonna happen. I can still do whatever the fuck I want, or make whatever the fuck rules I want, or for myself, whatever. But there comes a point where the ego is like the little kid looking up to the whatever, treating the awareness as some sort of magic, right? And then there becomes a point where the ego goes above that and then looks down back at it. There's kind of like a little sine and cosine wave where the x in the middle is, yeah, what I'm going to call the awareness, and then when you're below it, the ego thinks awareness is God, or I mean you, but
Well, I think like if you do the gross subtle causal trichotomy sort of thing, which you
yeah,
characterize
yeah,
as sort
yeah,
of the physical, abstract, and awareness. I guess what I'm kind of seeing in this is that like you're identifying a lot in that abstract, and in that sense, you see the immanent in the physical and in the abstract, and the immanent being kind of the awareness as creating form, and that is isolating in an almost like inescapable sense, like you will never
Yeah.
be understood,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, that is the
But I
crux. That is
still
the
kind of
crux.
puzzle, like, you know, do you have you ever found like I don't know, a kind of peer in what you're doing,
Yeah.
or
Well, I would
you
say,
know
hey,
what I
you
mean?
make them. Lindsay, I would say my ex-girlfriend. Lindsay's my
You
peer.
manufacture them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Sure.
but once you wake them up, they're of a different affinity of you. They're as good as peers.
Wow.
But hey, that's what God says. I mean,
And that
whatever that
sounds like
means.
effective guruhood, kind
Yeah,
of.
I
You
mean,
know, like
whatever. You're like that's what, and so I mean, it become. I mean, yeah, yeah, we're all in this together, right? Ha, 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 whatever. I mean, yeah, it turns into a bunch of different things. It could turn to pessimistic, optimistic. It turns into great things. Turns into whatever. My main thing that I guess I was saying with I guess getting humbled really is that unifying factor. Of course, it is the aloneness. The aloneness is one thing. The aloneness is fine, but I mean, yeah, I guess it is oneness. Yeah, it can be very
and you
lonely.
think
I
yeah,
guess that is.
exactly. It's called oneness, like one
Yeah,
is alone.
yeah, oneness can be very lonely, and
And
so
if
when
you're
that
sharing it with someone, then you're both one. Now you're
and,
alone. Yeah.
and I guess what I'm. Oh, you want to be in creative mode all the time? What if I say yes? What would you do if I called your bluff? What if you get it? What if you get to be the one? What if you? What I mean, what happens? What happens? That ass. What happens? Tell me you don't pass the ball back into God's court. What a jam situation. Just like what would happen? What would happen if you experienced just lonely and oneness all the time? How would you feel? You still as chipper as you were? Yeah, but you ain't laughing now, Evan. That's what he's saying. He's talking that shit. Talking that mean shit.